welcome back to the Paperback Podcast. And today I'm going to be ranking every single book that I had to read for school. Well, not every single one, because some of them are like nobody knows them, but some of them, most of them, I left a couple out, but we're going to be ranking all the books I had to read for school, okay? And for some reason, it's either really good or really bad. So let's get into it. So over here we got a little tier list going on. So we have S is very good, A pretty good, B also pretty good, C eh, it's alright, D bad. Actually, it makes more sense if B is like the middle ground. Yeah, B is like the middle ground, C is like oh, and D is like wow, what the fuck did you write, So starting off, I'm gonna start random. I don't know. I put it in a random order here. Let's start with Looking for Alaska. Here's the thing about Looking for Alaska. If there's one man on this planet who can't write women, it's John Green. Okay. I've read 2 books by John Green, and that was enough. I read Looking for Alaska and An Abundance of Catherines. What what happened to you that you have to write women in such a sexual way, bro? Can you make them have a personality, maybe? Like, I read 2 of his books, right? And it's not like his writing is bad. It's just someone, dude, just don't write a book with women. For everyone's sake, don't write a book with women. Oh my god. First of all, what is Looking for Alaska about, right? Looking for Alaska, a kid who like goes to college and he meets like this girl and they like fall in love and stuff. And then there's like a crazy plot twist and I don't know, it's just about their relationship, right? It's all right. I mean, the ending isn't even that like it's like this book is like I mean, I get it's like sad and stuff, but the ending is kind of like okay, I expected this, like, you know. I mean, you don't even really know what happens like at the end. Like it's never really clear, but it's kind of like what? It just kind of you just kind of finish the book and you're like, "What?" You know? So yeah, I mean, that's my opinion. And also he just can't write women and like it bothered me so much every time he like started describing a female character. I was like, "Oh my god, bro. Like please interact with women before writing them. We're going to put this at a C. I'm sorry." Next up, let's go with one that I think people might not know is Intrigue and Love. So I read this in German, right? And in German it's called Kabale und Liebe. But Intrigue and Love, I think, is actually a very interesting book. And because it's about this guy who's a very wealthy dude, he's like a prince or something. And he falls in love with this girl who is like I guess you would say a peasant, yeah. And I mean, it just kind of follows like their story, right, and everything that happens. And oh my god, it's insane! Like this story is insane, bro. It's insane. But I think it's very interesting because I think one of the what the point, like one of like the points of this book was to just criticize like the class system that we have, and I found that very interesting. I actually really like this book. But oh my god, it was hard to understand. I read it. I mean, like German is my native language, okay? But yeah, no, this book like is written in such an old German, bro. Like it was insane. But like once the teacher, explained to us like what the book is actually about, I was like, oh, this is actually interesting. And like he criticizes the class system in a very interesting way by analyzing really like friendships and stuff and that like relationships, I mean. So yeah, I'm gonna put this at an A actually. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? Okay, moving on. We're gonna go with I don't know, what am I feeling? We're gonna do random. Okay, that kind of just landed up there, so let's do that again. Okay, Lord of the Flies. So Lord of the Flies, I didn't actually have to read that for school, but I read it, and it turns out it's actually very much a book that you read in school. Like, I mean, we didn't read it in my school, but it's a very kind of like classic like school book, you know? So Lord of the Flies. Who wrote this, bro? Who wrote this book? This is insanity. This is taking Boys Will Be Boys to an extreme and horrifying and disturbing level, bro. I mean, oh my god, I get the message and stuff, you know? But as I read this in sixth grade, bro, I was traumatized. I was like, what the fuck did I just read? If you don't know Lord of the Flies, Lord of the Flies is like, oh my god, I can't really remember what it's about. It's about basically an island where boys are just left alone. Like they're just left there, and then like you kind of just see like what would happen if you left a bunch of dudes on an island, a bunch of like teenage dudes on an island. What would happen? The answer is absolute chaos because that's what happens. Like it's insane. If you've read the book, it you know if you know you know, bro. Like what the fuck? Um, I mean, it was just kind of too crazy for me. I'm gonna put it at a B. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like it's a little too insane. So let's go with another one that is kind of, I think people won't know, is The Physicists. I think that's what's called in English, The Physicists by the fi- the Physicists. Yes, there we go. By Dürrenmatt. So yeah, I read this in German as well. That's why it's in German here. I think overall, this wasn't actually that bad. It was actually kind of funny as well. And I think it was a type of book where I did not expect that it had like a message, right? And I did not expect that that would be the message. So the book is basically about these two people who are in an insane asylum and they believe that they're physicists, right? And I mean, it's a very short book. It all takes place on like the same day, you know. And it's very interesting because it kind of goes into like the responsibility of scientists and stuff. So I actually really like this one. Well, I'm gonna I'm gonna put it an A. I'm gonna put it at an A. It was actually pretty interesting. Yeah, yeah. I put it at an A. I put it at an A. It was all right. It was all right. It wasn't that bad actually. I had a good time reading it, and it was so short, bro. Like I read it in like a day. So next up, we're gonna go to 13 Reasons Why. Not a single person in my class remotely enjoyed this book when we read it. It's kind of like Lord of the Flies, where I'm like, what sick motherfucker wrote this, bro? I get the message and all. Like, it's about if you don't know what it's about a girl who you know unalives herself, and she writes letters to every single person who she believes is at fault for that. Kind of a fucked up thing to write about, I'm not gonna lie to you. I get it's all about like yeah, the small things that build up and then, eventually you fucking, you know, but it's just a very fucked up thing to write about. And also I just hated Hannah Baker. I hated her. I absolutely hated her. When people tried to help her, she didn't accept it. And like I don't know, like I know like it's all complicated and stuff. I did not like this character. I did not like this book. I think it's a fucked up thing to write about, and I'm like, oh my god, why did we read about this in school? Like this is insane to write about, to like read about in school. I was in ninth grade. I was 14. I was reading about this girl who killed herself. Like no, 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 no. It is not for me. It is not for me. It's not for me. We're gonna put this at a C, bro, because it's the same. It's like weird. I realized I forgot to add one book, one awful, Awful book. So next up, I'm I'm not looking forward to this next one. No, no. We got The Absolute True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie. No, this book was not it, y'all. It's about a kid who's half Native American and I think. No, he's Native American and he goes to a white school and stuff. And that's interesting and all. But it's again with the sexual stuff, man. I mean, I know you're supposed to be realistic and stuff, but this book was just so weird, bro. It was like, I read it, I'm like, why am I reading this in eighth grade, bro? And it also doesn't help that the dude who wrote this was a sex offender, and you can definitely see that in this book. I don't actually have this book anymore. I think I threw it out because it was that bad, bro. It's it's weird. It's very controversial. Controversial. I don't like. I mean, like most of the books you read in school are like controversial and stuff. Whatever. I'm not saying that you shouldn't read controversial books and controversial books, but in school and this kind of stuff. I mean, the guy. Uh, I mean, it's kind of like with John Green, just over sexualizing women. Like, oh my god, it was not a good one. It was not a good one. I did not enjoy this one. No, we're gonna. I'm low-key putting this at a D. Every time I had to open that book for school, I was so pissed, bro. I was so done. I mean, it was interesting and stuff to see, like, as like a Native American, and he goes to a white school, so he gets like bullied and stuff. So he acts like white and stuff, and he tries to pretend like he's not poor. And that's interesting at all, but I have some very big problems with this book. The bigger one just being that the guy who wrote this is a sex offender, and it's just so evident in that book. Let's move on with a book I thoroughly enjoyed, and I even made a video on this. Is The Perks of Being a Wallflower. The Perks of Being a Wallflower. I can't speak today. I don't know what's up with me. Perks of Being a Wallflower. I've already made a video on this, but let me briefly summarize my opinion. I think that this is one of the best like coming of age novels ever, you know? It talks I mean, it talks about like teenager stuff, like it talks about like it has like some sex and stuff, like some sex stuff mentioned, but it's not overtly sexual like the book by Sherman and Alexie, like Looking for Alaska, like 13 Reasons Why, okay? It's none of that, okay? This is a very normal book about teenagers, and I love it. And this is like one of my favorite books. Like I absolutely loved it. I didn't actually have to read this for school. I thought I did. Because in the summer I was like trying to read all the books I would have to read in the next year, but it turns out I got it wrong because they change the books every year. So I just kind of read this book, but you know what? I'm not mad I didn't I'm not mad I did because I didn't waste my time at all. This was an amazing book. I loved it. I loved it. If you don't know what it's about this kid Charlie who goes into high school, and it just follows his like whole high school years. And there's one very shocking plot twist, which is also very sad. I don't know. It deals a lot with like mental health and all that stuff. It's amazing. I love it. I love it. I'm putting it at an S tier. We're putting it at an S tier. It's good. I love it. I always recommend that book to everyone. Next up, I just finished this book yesterday actually because I had to read it for my English class. It's The Reluctant Fundamentalist. I actually enjoyed this book. For even though my English is pretty good, it was kind of hard to read at times. I'm not gonna lie to you, but it's okay. So it's about this. I think he's Pakistani. His name is Chungus, and he meets a American, and he just tells him all about how his life was before and after 9/11. It's very interesting. I really enjoyed it. It really goes into his like identity and feeling like, do I belong in New York or do I belong back in what's it called where he's from again? Lahore, I think. Yeah. So yeah, he's just it's very like conflicting. It has an open ending. I actually really like this book. So I'm gonna put it at an A. Yeah. Yeah, we put it at an A. We put it at an A. Okay, next up, we're gonna go with, I don't know, let's do random again. Okay, I guess we're going with The Diary of Anne Frank. So the thing is, here's why I feel kind of weird like rating this book because like it's not really a book, it's a diary. You know, it's like a real diary. Like someone didn't write this as a book. Someone just wrote it. Like she was just like a kid just writing in her diary, you know. That's why I always find it kind of weird when I see people like putting reviews on this book. Like when I after I read it, I was like, surely there's not reviews for this book. It's not really a book, it's a diary, you know. I mean, like she didn't intend for other people to see it. It just kind of bothers me to like rate this book, you know, so I'm not gonna rate it. But I think The Diary of Anne Frank, oh my god, I almost cried, y'all. Like it's just such a sad story. Like no, like I'm gonna cry now. Like it's insane. When I went to Amsterdam, I also went to visit the Anne Frank house. I almost cried there, bro, because like it's just so sad. It's so sad, and I loved reading it. I don't know. Can I put this on a tier list, bro? I'm gonna feel weird if I put this on a tier list, man. I'm gonna leave it down there. It was good. I enjoyed it. I feel weird putting it like on one of these though. Like it's just weird. But I had to read it for school and it was great. And yeah, I enjoyed it. I'm not gonna rank it, bro. It feels weird. It feels weird to do. It feels really weird to do. Okay, next up, we're gonna go with Chrono Chro- yeah, Chronicles of a Death Foretold by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. So, I read this school year, so I don't like I I read it in like the winter holidays, you know. So I had to read this in German, and it's basically about crime mystery kind of thing, right? So it's about how like this girl gets married, but then the guy sends her back because she's not a virgin anymore, and so her brothers they ask her who did it, you know, and then she says like this guy's name, Santiago, and they're like, all right, we're gonna go kill him. So they go kill him, you know. And the mystery is like, did he, you know, did he make her not a virgin? You know what I'm saying? Or did he not? The thing is, it's not like this is a bad story. I think some aspects are very interesting, like how the just like societal norms affected everyone in this book and like how it like you know like you can really see that and stuff. But the thing is like this kind of book is just not really my thing. I don't know. I found it kind of boring. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, I found it kind of like I had a hard time getting through this book. I had to get through this book because I had to read it for school. But I, it was kind of like, you know. I'm okay. Like it's okay. I didn't enjoy it that much. It was just kind of like okay, that's kind of interesting, but like, you know. So I'm gonna put it as a B. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So last one, ending off on strong note, is Holes by Louis Sachar. So I read this again in sixth grade. I don't know. They had us reading a lot back then, bro. Back then, I hated reading, and I still loved that book. And I think that says a lot. Okay, this book is about a kid who was falsely accused of a crime, and he has to go to this place called Camp Green Lake, and he thinks it's gonna be like a cool summer camp and stuff. But he ends up having to dig holes all the time the whole time he's there. And so he meets a bunch of people and like I don't know, it's very interesting because like the friendships are very interesting, the people are very interesting, and in general I like how it was written. It was like it had me hooked. You know, I hated reading back then and I still love that book. I finished it so quickly. I was like I loved it. I read it for a second time, I think. Like I just loved it. It was great. It was a great story. Really heartwarming as well, you know, like there was cute friendships and then there was also really like serious like shit going on and it was just really fun to read. I loved it. I loved it. Fucking love this book, bro. We're gonna put that at an S. Yes, we're gonna leave Anne Frank down there because I feel weird rating a diary of a teenager. Because it's weird. Like I'm thinking like what if someone took my diary, read it, and it was like dude, this is low key B tier. Like, you know, like I'm good. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that. I think reading books for school, it can either, because like, the thing is, reading kind of becomes like a chore, right? Because they tell you how many chapters you have to read until the next class. And that's kind of like I don't I don't want to do that. No. But I think literature is very important in school. I'm gonna say, even as a student, when like, well, when I get told I have to read a book, I'm like, but at the end of the day, reading just makes you smarter. Reading just makes you smarter and just wiser, or whatever, and you become more educated. So you know what? I'm not mad they make us read. Okay. Plus, I like reading now, so it's kind of easy for me to do it. Back when I hated reading, it was kind of like, I really gotta fucking do this. Um, there's more books I had to read, but like I was like, dude, who the fuck knows these books? Like it was some random ass German authors, like nobody knows them, bro. Nobody knows them. I'm not gonna bother to talk about this, but I think these are like most of them are like most people read in school. Like definitely like Perks, Holes, Looking for Alaska, probably 13 Reasons Why. I don't know, but everyone's like probably seen a bit of 13 Reasons Why. The rest of them, I don't know. Maybe you've seen them, like read them. Lord of the Flies, everyone definitely knows that. But yeah, the rest, yeah. So yeah, I mean, overall, it was like I said at the beginning, it was either really good or really bad. Okay, I'm happy with this list. So at S tier, we got The Perks of Being a Wallflower and Holes. At A, we got Intrigue and Love, The Physicists, and The Reluctant Fundamentalist. At B, we got Lord of the Flies and Chronicles of a Death Foretold. At C, we have Looking for Alaska and 13 Reasons Why. And at very last and definitely least, is The Absolute True Diary of a Part-Time Indian Kid. I think this book was actually banned in some schools. Just not in our school for some reason. I don't know. But yeah. Yeah, I mean, comment if you want any books that you had to read for school and tell me if it was shitty or if it was great. Tell me all about it. I'd love to hear it. Anyways, hope you enjoyed this episode of the Paperback Podcast, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.